The bush was quiet, the kind of quiet that made your ears ring and your gut tighten. Constable Kira Manning had driven this stretch of winding tarmac more times than she could count. Nothing ever happened out here. Just gum trees, morning mist, and the occasional wallaby frozen in the high beams. But this time, as she rounded a bend, she saw something that made her slam the brakes. There, in the exact center of the double yellow line, stood a Kelpie puppy, its coat the color of rust. Small, alone, upright on its back legs. Front paws raised like it was begging. Not barking, not wagging, just pleading. The patrol car skidded to a stop. Red dust billowed behind the tires. The bush did not move. Neither did the puppy. Kira leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "What the hell?" she whispered. She turned off the siren and opened the door slowly. The little dog did not flinch. Its ears were tucked back. Eyes locked on her with an intensity that did not belong to something so small. There was fear, yes, but something else. Desperation. The kind that did not come from being lost. The kind that came from seeing something no one else did. As Kira approached, the pup wobbled, still standing. Then she saw it. Dried blood mattered into the side of its rusty fur near the shoulder. Not fresh, not accidental. She crouched down low, palms open. "Hey there, little fella, what's happened to you?" The puppy took one step forward, then collapsed onto the road with a soft whimper. Kira scooped him up gently. The pup did not resist. He pressed into the officer's chest. His tiny chest heaving, Kira could feel the tremble in his body. Weak, but still holding on, she looked around, expecting someone, anyone, to come running out of the trees, calling for a missing dog. Nothing, just bush, road, and silence. She opened the patrol car door and set the pup gently on the passenger seat. "You just walk out here like that, alone," she said aloud, more to herself than the dog. The pup did not respond. But the moment Kira turned the ignition, she noticed something chilling. The puppy was not looking at her. He was staring back into the woods. Back in the patrol car, the silence stretched between Constable Kira Manning and the little Kelpie curled on the passenger seat. Kira had cranked the aircon just enough to cool the interior, but not so much it would make the pup shiver. She glanced over at the tiny body, curled but alert, eyes open, watching, still not making a sound. Kira reached over and grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, this is Manning. I've got a stray pup, possibly injured, found on the old Bells line of road near mile marker 54. No tags, no collar, no signs of owners nearby. I'm bringing him in for evaluation." There was a crackle before the reply. "Copy that, Manning. Animal control's flat out. Closest vet is in Lithgow. You right to transport?" She looked at the dog. "Yeah, he's light." As the patrol car pulled onto the road again, Kira noticed the pup. She had to start calling him something. He kept his gaze fixed on the rear window. Still no bark, no whine, just that same haunted stare. "All right," Kira muttered, "we'll call you Rusty for now. You look like you're carrying more than a lost pup should." 15 minutes down the road, Rusty finally moved, not to stretch, not to bark, but to climb awkwardly onto the center console and rest his chin on Kira's arm. His body was trembling again, not from cold, but from something deeper, trauma maybe, or instinct. Kira had seen that look in human eyes before. Soldiers, mostly, kids from her hometown who came back different after serving. Rusty's eyes held that same vacant knowledge, like he had seen something and could not let go of it. The road narrowed again as they approached a bend, and Rusty suddenly perked up. Ears straight, body tense. He let out a sound that was not quite a bark, more like a strained exhale, like he wanted to speak but did not know how. Kira slowed the car instinctively. "You see something?" she asked, eyes scanning the bush. That is when she saw it. Barely off the road between two gum trees, a strip of fabric, torn, dirty, hanging from a branch like it had been yanked in passing. Kira pulled over and killed the engine. Rusty stood on the seat now, rigid, staring out the window. Kira did not move right away. She just looked at Rusty and said, "What did you bring me into?" Constable Kira Manning stepped out of the patrol car slowly, her boots crunching against gravel and dry leaves. The air smelled sharp, eucalyptus, dry earth, and something else beneath it. Something metallic. Rusty remained frozen on the seat, eyes locked on the trees, body stiff like a drawn wire. Kira followed the puppy's gaze and moved toward the strip of fabric hanging from the branch. Up close, it was worse than she thought. The cloth was part of a jacket. Dark green, heavy duty, the kind bushwalkers wore deep into the wilderness. The tear was violent, uneven, as if it had been ripped free in a struggle. And along the edge was dried blood. Not a lot, but enough. Kira felt her jaw tighten. This was not rubbish. This was not an accident. She looked back at the patrol car. Rusty had not moved. The puppy's ears were pinned back now, Eyes glossy, Kira waved him gently. "Stay," she said instinctively, like Rusty already understood commands. The pup did not budge anyway. He did not want to come closer. He did not want to run. He just watched. Kira scanned the forest floor. Broken branches, flattened brush, a faint trail leading deeper between the trees. Barely visible, but there if you knew how to look. And Kira did. She grew up out here. She knew how the bush spoke when something went wrong. And right now, the bush was whispering panic. She keyed the radio. "Dispatch, I'm seeing possible signs of an altercation. Fabric with blood near the old Bells line. Mile marker 54. I'm going to need backup." Static, then a pause. "Copy, Manning, nearest unit is 40 minutes out." Kira exhaled slowly. 40 minutes was a long time. Too long. She turned back toward the patrol car and froze. Rusty was no longer on the seat. The passenger door stood open. The puppy was already on the ground. Nose low, following the faint trail Kira had just noticed. Not running, tracking. Kira rushed forward. "Hey, Rusty, stop." But the puppy did not panic. He did not bolt. He moved with quiet purpose. Tail low, steps careful. That is when Kira understood. Rusty had not wandered into the road. He had escaped, and now he was trying to lead her back to whatever had hurt him. Or whoever had not made it out. Kira drew a breath, eyes fixed on the dark path ahead, and followed the smallest set of paw prints she had ever trusted with her life. The trail twisted into the bush like an old scar. Barely visible, overgrown, almost forgotten, Constable Kira Manning kept her hand near her sidearm as she followed Rusty. The small Kelpie pup, who now walked several paces ahead. It should not have made sense. This little dog leading a trained officer through the wilderness. But Kira was not questioning it anymore. Not after the look in Rusty's eyes back on the road. Branches brushed Kira's arms and shoulders as she ducked under low limbs. Rusty never made a sound. No bark, no whine, just occasional glances back to make sure Kira was still behind him. The blood in the puppy's fur had dried, but Kira could see fresh scrapes on his paws from brambles. Still, the pup moved with the focus of a search dog trained for years. Except Rusty was just a baby. That part made Kira's stomach twist. After 10 minutes of hiking through dense bush, the trail widened slightly, and that is when Kira saw it. A rusted old fire trail. Barely intact, hidden under decades of leaves and moss. No tire tracks, no footprints, no sign that anyone had used it in years. Kira paused, scanning the area. "You've been here before, haven't you?" she muttered, more to herself than to Rusty. The puppy stood at the edge of the trail, unmoving. He looked straight ahead, body tense again. Kira followed his gaze. About 50 yards away, tucked behind a wall of gums and stone, was something unexpected. A shack, not abandoned, not quite. Smoke drifted lazily from a pipe chimney. One window was boarded, another cracked open, but the place was real, and someone was clearly inside. Kira crouched low, heart thudding. She had not called for backup again. She did not want to risk alerting anyone. This was not protocol, but her instinct screamed louder than training. Whoever lived here had something to do with Rusty's injuries. Maybe even worse. She unlatched her holster, staying hidden behind a fallen log, and listened. A door creaked, footsteps, then a voice, rough, muttering, distant. Kira could not catch the words, but they were not calm. They were angry, frustrated. She looked down. Rusty had laid flat on the forest floor, ears pinned, shaking. Something terrible had happened here, and Kira was about to walk straight into the middle of it. Constable Kira Manning moved silently, circling the shack from the edge of the tree line. Rusty stayed low behind her, pressing his belly to the forest floor. Every few steps, the puppy paused, ears twitching, listening for sounds Kira could not hear. They were a strange pair, woman and dog, soldier and survivor, both drawn toward the same broken place without knowing why. From the side of the shack, Kira spotted a window cracked open just enough to peek through. She stepped carefully, avoiding leaves and twigs, her breath tight in her chest. Inside, the room was dim and cluttered. Old furniture, dirty dishes, a rifle leaning against the wall, and in the center of the shack stood a man, grizzled, mid-60s, wearing a dusty flannelette shirt and boots caked in dried mud. He was pacing. Kira could not hear his words, but she saw the man turn and kick something on the ground. A plastic storage bin, duct taped shut. The man shouted. Rusty whimpered low behind Kira, trembling, his nose pointed toward the box. Whatever was in there, he knew it. Kira's instinct screamed, someone else is inside. She moved back, crouching beside Rusty. Stay here, she whispered, though she knew the pup would not listen if things went wrong. Drawing her sidearm, Kira crept to the front of the shack and knocked. 3 sharp raps, no siren, no uniform call-out, She wanted the man off guard. Inside, footsteps stumbled. The door creaked open slowly. The man squinted. "You lost?" Kira held her badge low. "Rural Fire Service got a report of smoke from an unregistered dwelling. Mind if I ask you a few questions?" The man's eyes darted behind Kira toward the trees. Maybe expecting someone else, he stepped forward only slightly. "Ain't no law against building a fire. I've lived here 20 years. His tone was dry, defensive. Kira could feel the shift in the air. A tension, the kind that fills a room before something breaks. That is when a soft sound came from behind the man. A cry, small, muffled, not an animal, a child. Kira's face did not change. But inside, everything locked into place. Rusty had not just escaped. He had gone for help. And now Kira understood. The puppy had not been begging for his own life on that road. He had been begging for someone else's. Constable Kira Manning kept her face calm. But every nerve in her body was pulled tight. Behind the man in the shack. That muffled cry had not come again. But it was real. Kira knew the sound of fear when she heard it. And this was not just about a puppy anymore. Someone was in that shack. Alive. "I'm going to need to step inside," Kira said firmly, her tone level but unreadable. The man did not move. His jaw clenched. "You got a warrant?" "I can get one," Kira replied, slowly shifting her stance. "Or we can handle this the easy way." The man's eyes flicked again. This time not toward the trees, but toward the back of the shack. Just a glance. But Kira saw it. She saw the twitch of guilt, of calculation. And that was all she needed. Her hand hovered near her sidearm. She did not want to draw. Not yet, but the tension was a live wire between them. Before either could speak again, a sharp bark broke the silence. High and urgent, Rusty had moved. The puppy stood just behind Kira now. Tail low, body vibrating with anxiety. He barked once more, then bolted, not toward the trees, but around the shack, disappearing behind the far corner. "Damn dog," the man growled, stepping forward. But Kira raised a hand. "Don't," she warned, her voice like steel. Now she moved quickly, stepping back and around the shack. Hand on her weapon. "Rusty," she called out. The sight stopped her. Behind the shack, hidden under a rotted tarp and half covered with chopped firewood, was a cellar door. Iron hinges rusted, one side slightly ajar. Rusty stood beside it, pawing frantically, whining, digging. Kira rushed forward, pulled the door open, and what she saw inside made her breath catch. A young girl, no more than 7, dirty, bruised, eyes wide with terror. She did not scream, she just looked up, frozen in shock. A length of rope sat coiled beside her. "It's okay," Kira whispered, kneeling. "You're safe now." The bush did not speak, but it seemed to hold its breath. Above, the wind moved through the gum trees like an exhale. And for the first time, Kira understood what Rusty had really done. He had not just escaped violence. He had tracked down the one person who could stop it. Constable Kira Manning scooped the girl gently into her arms. She was light, far too light, and did not speak. Her head rested against Kira's chest, her fingers twitching as if clinging to a dream she had not yet escaped. Rusty followed closely, never looking away from her, never letting his paws stop moving. He circled them, guarding, guiding, as if this was always the plan. Back around the shack, the man was gone. The front door stood wide open, but the inside was empty. Kira's heart dropped. She had left the patrol car too far up the trail and her radio inside it. No backup, no comms, no time. The girl whimpered softly, then buried her face deeper into Kira's jacket. Kira scanned the tree line, her instincts flaring like sirens in her blood. She did not know if the man was armed, did not know if he was watching, but she did know one thing. This girl had just survived something terrible, and she was not going back into the dark. She looked down at Rusty, who stood like a statue, ears twitching. The pup could feel it, too. The danger was not over. Kira picked up speed, heading back toward the overgrown trail. "Come on," she said to Rusty, "we're going quiet." She moved low, fast, taking a shortcut through the brush. One eye on the trail ahead, the other on the trees behind. Every step felt louder than it should. The bush was suddenly alive with noise. Cracking twigs, shifting wind, rustling branches. Or maybe just nerves. Or maybe not. Halfway to the patrol car, Kira stopped. Movement. A figure, 30 yards out, ducking behind a tree. She could not see the face, but she knew it was him. The man was not running. He was circling, hunting. Kira turned to Rusty, who had already stopped, facing the same direction, tail stiff, a low growl rising in his throat. No fear, just pure, locked-in instinct. Kira had one choice: run for the car and hope to reach the radio. Or hide and wait, risking another ambush. The girl stirred in her arms. Rusty looked up at her, eyes wide, chest heaving. And then the pup did something Kira never expected. He stepped forward, barking, loud, sharp, purposeful, drawing attention, a distraction. No, Kira whispered, but Rusty kept going, because somehow that little Kelpie knew the mission was not over yet. And he was ready to put himself on the line again. Rusty's bark cut through the bush like a siren. Sharp, focused, not panicked, not wild, strategic. Kira Manning had seen working dogs before. Dogs bred for resilience on vast sheep stations. But Rusty was not trained. He was a puppy, yet in that moment, he moved like he had been taught what sacrifice meant. The man stepped out from behind the tree, drawn by the sound, a rifle in his hands. He did not call out, did not threaten, he just raised the weapon and aimed, not at Kira, but toward the movement, toward the dog. "Hey!" Kira shouted, just as the man's finger tightened on the trigger. She dropped to one knee, pulling her own weapon in one smooth motion. The girl in her arms cried out. Rusty froze mid-bark, and in that split second, everything happened at once. A single shot rang out. The man dropped, not dead, but wounded. The rifle clattered to the ground as he fell back, screaming, clutching his shoulder. Kira's hands were still steady, though her chest pounded like thunder. "Don't move," she barked. Rusty stood trembling near a stump, unharmed, but stunned, tail tucked so tightly it touched his belly. Kira turned quickly, laying the girl behind a tree before cuffing the man, who was now cursing into the dirt. With the threat neutralized, Kira radioed in a full report. Backup, ambulance, child protection, all of it. The line was quiet for a beat before the dispatcher replied. "Jesus, Manning, we'll get everything rolling, sit tight." But Kira did not sit. She dropped down beside Rusty, who had not moved. The puppy's body was shaking, not from injury, but from adrenaline. Kira ran a hand down his back. Slow and firm. "You were trying to protect us," she said, her voice low. "You were willing to take the shot." The girl peeked from behind the tree, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is the dog okay?" "He's okay," Kira said. "He's a little brave, that's all." Rusty let out a low whine and crawled into Kira's lap, folding into her like a child seeking warmth. Kira wrapped her free arm around the dog and exhaled deeply, staring up at the sun now breaking through the canopy above. The worst was over, but something inside Kira shifted in that moment. She was not just a cop who had stumbled into something dark. She was a woman being shown something by a dog who had no words. No badge, and no backup, just heart. Hours later, the bush was alive again. But this time, with rescue teams, flashing lights, and voices crackling through radios. The stillness that once haunted the trees had been broken. Constable Kira Manning sat on the open tailgate of her patrol car, a wool blanket around her shoulders. Though she was not cold. Not really. Rusty lay curled at her feet, finally asleep, his little chest rising and falling in soft, steady breaths. The girl had been airlifted out 20 minutes ago. Her name was Lily Pierce, and according to the medics, she would be okay. Malnourished, dehydrated, shaken, but alive. Her parents had been searching for her for 3 days. No one had expected her to be found this far out, and certainly not because of a Kelpie pup dragging a cop into the woods. Sergeant David Shaw approached from the side, clipboard in hand, jaw clenched as usual. "You going to tell me how a stray puppy led you to a kidnapped girl? Or do I need to wait for the report?" Kira gave a tired half smile. "The report's not going to cover it, Sarge." Shaw looked down at Rusty, his brow furrowed. "That dog yours?" Kira hesitated, then nodded. "He is now." There was a long pause. Then Shaw's expression softened just slightly. "Damn good thing you stopped when you did. If you'd written him off as roadkill or just another stray." "I almost did," Kira admitted quietly, "but he begged like he knew, like he was asking me not to give up." Shaw did not answer. He just gave Kira a long look and walked away, leaving the officer alone with her thoughts. The bush was clearing out now. Tape pulled down, lights packed up, the shack had been marked off as a crime scene, and the man taken into custody. Justice was coming, but that was not what Kira kept thinking about. She watched Rusty sleep. The pup had risked everything with no reason to believe he would be understood. He had run toward danger when most humans would not. He had not spoken, but he had communicated everything. Kira reached down and scratched behind Rusty's ear. "You weren't lost," she said softly. "You were trying to be found." And in doing so, he had found them all. 2 weeks later, Constable Kira Manning stood on her back veranda, coffee in hand, watching Rusty chase a falling gum leaf across the grass. The pup had gained weight, his coat shinier now, and the raw fear in his eyes had softened into something gentler. Trust, but the instinct was still there. He would sit by the front door every night at exactly 8 p.m., ears perked as if waiting for the next call. The next person to save. Kira had taken leave from the department, just for a while, after filing the report, testifying during the arraignment, and returning Lily Pierce to her family. Something inside her needed quiet. Not the kind the bush had offered, but a different kind, a peace that felt earned. She was not used to being thanked. But Lily's mother had hugged her with everything she had. The sergeant had shaken her hand a little longer than usual. And Lily, she had not said much, but she had asked if Rusty could visit her sometime. Kira promised he would. Inside the house, Rusty's new bed sat near the fireplace. Toys scattered across the floor. A leash hung by the door. But Kira rarely used it. The pup never strayed far. Every time Kira walked, Rusty walked with her. Every time she sat down, the dog laid at her feet. They were tethered now, not by training, but by something deeper: survival, purpose, redemption. One evening, Kira sat down at her desk and opened a blank document. At the top, she typed, "Rusty wasn't lost. It was not for a report. It was not for a court record. It was for herself, for the part of her that had been drifting for too long, waiting for something real to break through the routine." She wrote for hours about the bush, the girl, the man, the silence, and the sound of tiny paws on dry leaves that had led her towards something more than a rescue. She wrote about how a scared little dog had reminded her that instinct could be louder than logic, that loyalty could outlive pain, that courage does not always roar. Sometimes, it just stands in the middle of a road and begs for someone to see. And as Kira finished the last sentence, Rusty climbed into her lap, curled into a warm, rusty-colored ball, and exhaled the deepest sigh Kira had ever heard.